And welcome back to a view from the Press Box live edition here on this Wednesday evening. Dima Mixon with the Pine Belt News, joined as always by Glyn Dyar from 247 Sports, GoldenEaglePride.com. Glyn, how is your Wednesday evening treating you?
It was beautiful today, man. Got out to a little football practice this afternoon. You couldn't ask for a prettier day out there.
Yeah, I just got home from church, so I missed football practice, but we're going to have a lot of discussion tonight towards the end of the show. I guess not a lot of discussion, but a couple of things to talk about because we got to talk to both coordinators for football on Monday. We haven't been able to really discuss that. And like you said, you kind of got out there and saw them this afternoon, and they have another scrimmage on Saturday. So a lot to talk about there. But we're going to start with the show, as we always do, baseball. You know, it seems like to be the overwhelming topic that everybody wants to talk about, which it should be. So let's jump into it. We're going to recap last night's game against North New Orleans, and then preview the Louisiana series. And then for everyone who's watching live, you're welcome to put some stuff in the chat, questions in the chat, whatever you'd like to do. And then we got a lot of questions from Glyn's board as well that we'll cover, and we'll do that. And then after all of that, Glyn, then we'll talk about some football, and then we'll get out of here. So if you're still tuned into us by the end of this, props to you. But Glyn, last night 3-2 victory for the Golden Eagles over New Orleans, walk-off with Matthew Russo. It's funny because we talked with Matthew Russo last night, and I kind of just told him, I said, man, it just seems like you're always in that position to walk off games. And he obviously gets the RBI single there. 3-2 victory for Southern Miss. When you look at the stats overall, it was just kind of the same old thing the team has done so far in this slump is just you get a lot of players on the base path, and then just struggle to get those key hits to really put yourself in a lead. New Orleans jumps out to a lead there, and then Southern Miss, steadies things with their pitching staff, but could just never get the bats going.
Yeah, I mean, that lefty was pretty solid for a guy who had some tough numbers. He was 92, 93 from the left side with some good run, and he followed that up with a solid slider. So, he wasn't a chump by any means. He's had some tough outings, but he was on last night. I guess the thing with us, we never made him uncomfortable enough and just let him settle in, and he pretty much controlled the majority of the game with those two pitches. So I would like to see us be able to do a little more damage early in counts on his fastball and dictate counts a little more and get him out of his comfort zone.
Yeah, 5 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, 3 walks. So, I mean, it wasn't like he was, 12 strikeouts and a walk or something like that. Just a lot of weak contact. And other times, it just felt like Southern Miss will just hit it right to guys.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, you hit on there wasn't a lot of traffic, but it wasn't because he was striking a lot of us out. There were, we were sitting up there with TrackMan, and there were just multiple balls hit over velo over 100 miles an hour, which lets me know that from that ODU series to last night, they're starting to make good contact again, and timing's coming back. And sometimes when you're making that hard contact, you're hitting it right at people's, sometimes, results will lag with that. I think eventually some of those, the law of averages, some of that stuff's going to start falling. I'm just glad to see them being on time again and making that contact. And also, you had our top 3 guys in the lineup that are kind of leading the team, but now you're seeing Russo starting to come back. So that could be huge for him down the stretch.
Yeah. He's had some good plate appearances, and I like what you said there. It feels like they're squaring up the baseball a lot better than they did, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And like you said, sometimes it just doesn't fall for you. And some, I feel like Ben Higgins hit more 100-mile-an-hour pitches right into the infield or right to somebody in the outfield than anybody on the team. But you're right. But Glyn, I mean, you need to get some power from your guys who need to get power. Russo just with 4 home runs so far this season. Dre Barrett with 2. Those to me is probably my biggest concern right now for this team is that the guys who you need power from, not saying you necessarily need 15 from Dre, but you thought you were going to get 15 to 20 from Russo, and so far it just hasn't amassed. Now, shout out to your guy on the board, on your board, your stat dude. He's an incredible stat guy.
7S09's the man.
He's awesome. I thought this was really encouraging. I really did. And for a lot of Southern Miss fans, again, shout out to Glyn's guy. I want to read you these numbers, Glyn, from where this team was last year to where they are currently this year through 32 games. Let's start with Ben Higdon. Through 32 games last season, he was batting 196. 196. Right, you heard that right. 196 batting average and a 288 OPS. I mean, that's not good, right? And then obviously he finished the year very strong. It was a huge part of them. Matthew Russo last season, he was at 280 last year at this time with 9 home runs. Currently,
that 9 home runs is key. He went on a tear late.
Right. So currently he's 281 batting average. Now he's 421 slug, but that's because his home run total's down. But I mean, kind of right where he was last season outside of 4 or 5 home runs. Dre Barrett last season, he was batting 275 at this point last year. Now he's batting 244. Last year he had 3 home runs up to this point, and this year he has 2. Stockman last year was batting 342 at this point last season, 202 this year. He had 2 home runs towards this point last year and 3 so far this year. As a team, the team was batting 285 last season at this juncture, and the team currently is batting 275. They had 45 homers up to this juncture last year, and this year they have 40. So the stats would tell you that this team is kind of almost in the exact same position they were a year ago when they finally went on that tear and just started mashing the baseball. And that's kind of what we've been saying, is that when it gets to April and May, that's when they start hitting the baseball. So far, in what day is it today? The 8 days into April, I think we can say that's true. They hit the ball very well against Old Dominion, right? Last night, I thought hit the ball well, just it didn't fall. But those numbers to me by your guy on your board, shout out to Glyn's board, very encouraging to me looking at that.
Yeah, I think he put this number up at some point that we're actually averaging more runs right now per game than we were last year. So that leads me back to, everybody's been griping about hitting, and I think that's going to, I always feel like it's going to get going in April, and it's starting to see signs of it. Maybe the biggest thing is the pitching right now. It's very unsettled. Last year, Oz didn't have near as many pieces, and plus he had the ace of all aces, and JB. I mean, that's every Friday night. That's certainty. That's no stress baseball game. No traffic, no stress. You knew what you had every Friday night. Doesn't have that guy. He has more pieces in depth, but it's right now more uncertainty. But I think this is still a developing pen. I think your rotation is what it's going to be. There's just no ace in it. You got guys that can manage games. Now I think Sundstrom's improved his game some. He's got some more swing and miss. I think that's a nice add for Saturday. But our starters are more guys that are managing games rather than controlling games. We need to be able to come out of the pen again like we're doing early in the season and control those games and hold opponents down. To me, that's the key with Colby and with Sibley, and then some developing guys like Littleton and people like that coming up.
Well, we saw that last night, that's for sure. When Colby Allen and Cross Sibley came in towards the end of that game, it was nice to see them bounce back. And you mentioned it, the pitching to me, I mean, there's a lot of talk online on Twitter and stuff, which obviously I just try to stay out of because it's irresponsible to get into all that debate. But when you look at the pitching, Glyn, it's honestly like puzzling. I mean, it really is. And I know I sent you this, and I just want to read this off, and just for our listeners' sake, and get your thoughts on this. This is team ERA directly in conference play, right? So just conference games. Your team ERA right now is a 4.97, which, I mean, that's to me a little shocking considering how they started. Josh Hawk, 7.2 ERA in conference. Cross Sibley, 6.35 ERA in conference. Sundstrom, 5.28 ERA in conference. Colby Allen, 5.27 ERA in conference. Graydon Harris, 3.97 ERA in conference. And I know that, there's only been, 12 conference games, so sometimes those numbers are influenced by bad innings or whatever. But from the start of the season, I mean, the bullpen would seem to be the identity of the team. And so far in conference, it hasn't been as locked down as the beginning of the season. Now, I don't think I'm not necessarily worried about it because that's just what's going to happen. You're going to get more film on guys. You're going to get, whatever it is. You're going to find those stats and stuff. But you need these guys to be better than 7 ERA in conference. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and there are just so many more pieces and so much more youth. Even at this point in the season, I think that pen is still it's a developmental thing with him, with those guys. Last year, he just didn't have many pieces. The certainty was he knew who his 4, 5, 6, 7 guys were, and after that, he was done. And of course, Landon on the back end was nails with all the saves, but we have that component with Clark. He's absolutely dominant, but he's still got to find his 4 to 6 guys in that pen that he can count on. And that's still kind of a work in progress right now. It's been a little up and down. Guys have been dominant. Guys have lost themselves, found themselves again. They need to have a little more, hopefully a little more certainty as we go forward. As that lineup starts to hit the baseball more when the weather's heating up. I guess that's going to be the task is that bullpen, and it's going to be Colby and Sibley. Those guys got to be nails, man. They're used to it.
Be nails too.
Yeah, they're seniors, man. They're used to it. And Ott last night was good, man. He had his velocity and the ball was running like it does. He seems to kind of gone away from that cutter a little bit. He was just, I guess he was just predominantly fastballs.
But he was almost like exclusively fastballs.
Yeah, and that fastball, when it's got metrics of a 4-seam and a 2-seam. It rides and runs. And when that's going, it's good enough to get you 2 or 3 innings like, he did last night. But those guys have got to be nails for us. And Ock's numbers, across the year from last year, he has taken a step forward. So I'm hoping to see, him continue what he's doing, stay solid, and get Colby and Sibley, settled into that mix. And then you got your 3 studs there to control that bullpen, and then get guys like Littleton, Broadhead, people like that going, and
right.
I still wouldn't mind seeing the Mitchell kid, Sam Mitchell, at some point. He was so good in the fall.
Yeah, I'm very surprised.
I got to believe he can offer something down the stretch for them. He's had so much pitchability.
Right. Somebody in the chat said, how many walks did Southern Miss issue last night? They issued 9 walks, but left 15 on the base path. So just wanted to point that out and answer that question real quickly. But you're right. Overall numbers, your bullpen's been really good, 3.75 total ERA. It's just the conference numbers that are just what's so puzzling about this team, because arguably you were playing better competition when they were nails, which that gives us all confidence that maybe when this does turn to end of May, early June, that the team will rise up back to where they were again.
And another thought, to be fair to that bullpen, I said they're still in developmental stage. Even at this point in the season, there's still so many more arms that they're having to cover more innings than they had to cover last year.
Right.
So that's a difference too. So you're not bringing in just one guy and getting to your closer. You're having to bridge multiple guys together to finish out a game. That's a different animal.
Correct. Very, very, very good point. Very valid point. But at the end of the day, your bullpen's still your strong suit. But the 3 guys you just need to be good for you on a consistent basis is Colby, Cross, and Josh. If those 3 guys can just be consistently good, you'd feel fine about your pen, because the other guys, even if they come in and have a bad outing or something, the thing what was happening earlier in the season was, let's just say, and I'm not singling out anybody, but let's just say it was J.W. Armistead, right? If he came out and walked 2 guys, okay, we'll just put in Josh Hawk and he'll be fine. And I think that's kind of gone away from them a little bit over the past couple of weeks. And so I'm just saying that they just need to get that back, right? And I think we started to see it last night, because there were times where you were like, oh boy, this could get away. And then they brought in Ock, like you said, and an inning and 2/3 and nothing.
Colby ate up all those innings for him and kept him in the game.
Cross came in. So that's what we were used to seeing earlier in the season. So it's good to see them replicate it again last night. We're going to move on to Louisiana. Let's get into the Louisiana preview. Always fun when Southern Miss and the Cajuns get going and meet each other on the diamond. This Cajun team, Glenn, overall great record, 19-13, but they've struggled in the Sun Belt, 4-8 overall in the Sun Belt. But important to note that they are 14-6 at home.
Yeah.
And they play much better at home than they do on the road. They beat LSU a couple weeks ago at home, which that doesn't seem like really that impressive anymore since Bethune-Cookman took care of them last night.
Yeah.
But this is not a team you want to mess with, and it'll give Southern Miss a big challenge, Glenn.
Yeah, they play great at the Teague, man. Shout out to Lafayette, one of my favorite food towns. Every time I go there, I gain 10 pounds before I get back home. But
which is why we're not going this weekend.
Yes, yeah. Lost my train of thought. I'm thinking about po' boys and gumbo. Yeah, I mean, that place is live and it's loud. Those are great fans. If you act nice, they'll probably feed you. That's one of their things out there. Yeah, it's a hostile atmosphere, and across the Sun Belt, other than Southern Miss and Lafayette, Southern Miss hadn't had to play in too many rough environments. Actually, I think will play well for Southern because they're an older team. I think they'll feed off that environment.
I agree. And again, when you think about, like I said last week, going into that Old Dominion series, I said that sometimes getting out of the Pete and kind of getting your headspace, outside of that pressure of the Pete almost, it seems to unlock something. And it definitely did this weekend. They really hit the ball well in Norfolk. So I'm hoping that also rolls over into Lafayette this weekend. So let's get into the pitching. Excuse me, I'm like nodding over here. Let's get into the pitching for Louisiana. Overall, Glenn, their ERA is pretty good, 4.84, and they have a really good rotation. And their rotation is kind of their three big pitchers, right? I mean, they throw almost exclusively all their innings.
Yeah, I mean, their rotation is eating up innings for them, and plus to them, they're going to come out Friday with the big right-hander Sawyer Pruitt, about 6'7", 230, big power arm. Yeah, freshman from Louisiana. The good pickup for them on the season. He's 2.72 ERA. That's impressive, man. And to have locked down the Friday night job, that's impressive. So yeah, I mean, he and Graydon go at it. That's going to be two of the younger, better pitchers in the conference going at each other. I can't wait to watch it. It'll be fun to watch.
And I think last week his command kind of got away from him a little bit. 5 walks in 3 innings pitched, but overall his walk numbers are pretty low. Now, I do think, looking at Louisiana's schedule, this is probably the best team they would have faced so far. I think, outside of LSU or something like that, but I'm talking about on a weekend where Sawyer is seeing a really good lineup. I think this is probably the best team Louisiana has faced so far this season, so we'll see if that plays into it at all. Saturday's guy, Glenn, seems to be their stud. Andrew Herman, left-handed pitcher. Not an overpowering guy. He's not like 6'4" or anything, but opponents only hitting 181 off of him, which is really impressive.
Legit swing and miss stuff. He's already rolled up 61 strikeouts, so yeah, he can sit him down, miss barrels, man. That's a concern.
I know all of our listeners start freaking out when we utter the words left-handed pitcher, but
bring it on. I want to pound left-handed pitching.
Yeah, there you go. That is a hitter's-friendly ballpark, though. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, we'll sell out of there.
No doubt. But I think Saturday is definitely going to be the hardest pitcher. And then Sunday, another left-handed arm, but a guy with definitely different ERA stats, 5.06 Ty Roman. Walks a lot. He's been hit before. Feels like Southern Miss can maybe get to him. Feels like that one would be probably the easiest out of the 3. But these guys, I mean, they throw exclusively almost all their innings. I mean, I would not be surprised to see all these guys going into the 6th or 7th, especially the first 2.
Yeah, those guys have been eating up innings for them, but they got one really good bullpen piece that they have to go to him in Cody Brash. So 2.15 ERA, 44 Ks already, over 29.1. He's been up the back end dude for him, when they finally get to him.
Yeah. I'm just I was trying to figure out
how to say something about their offense. It's they're always pretty athletic and bunt and put pressure on you and steal, and they're doing that again this year, but they look like they're more of a team that's, just has to build their innings with traffic, walks, and things like that, where Southern Miss is more of a, a one swing can change an inning for Southern Miss. That's going to be the difference between those guys. So, our pitchers, don't give them anything free and handle that pressure, with the bunt and hit and run game as best you can. But, they're built, to go station to station a little bit and put pressure on you, where, Southern's always been seen for years, that two and 3 run home run kind of team, the big swing team.
No doubt. I was just looking to see how many exact innings they've thrown. So they've thrown 143 innings collectively. They're 3 guys. And as a team, Louisiana has thrown 290. So that's, if I'm doing quick math, that's almost half of the innings that Louisiana has pitched has been these 3 guys, which is crazy.
Yeah, 2 completely different makeups of pitching staffs.
Right. Because, if you can get, the ideal scenario for Southern Miss is to get Graydon and Sundstrom to the 6th, right? That's your ideal situation where you only have to bring in 1 reliever Friday and hopefully 1 reliever on Saturday. That's like your absolute best case scenario. Now that just hasn't panned out just because of circumstances and things like that. But that is your most ideal scenario. But with Louisiana, their most ideal scenario is these guys complete game Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? So, And you mentioned the offense, and I'll kind of talk about this for a second. The offense for them is last in the Sun Belt in batting average, which for a Louisiana team, that's kind of shocking. 247 batting average. Like you said, they're not a team that overpowers you, just 22 long balls on the year. Now they have 60 doubles, which is on par with Southern Miss. I think Southern Miss has around 55 right off the top of my head. It's not like they're doubling like crazy or anything. But this is a team that, seems like they just want to get guys on, pressure you to death, and then get some singles through the infield, get some doubles into the gap. It's also not been a team that's really run a lot. 57 stolen bases.
That's pretty solid.
They
have kind of a workmanlike effort. They build innings, and if you walk them and you don't handle pressure with hit and run and bunts and stuff, they'll hit you for 1 or 2 runs here and there and just build it throughout the game.
And even though they're
differently built teams,
right? Their key bat is a guy by the name of Lee Amity. Really good bat. He's going to lead off for them in most games. 368 average, 1,000 OPS, 26 walks. If he's on base, he's going to be stealing bases and all that stuff. So that's exactly the guy you want to be watching for them. On the offense, they have a couple other guys as well. But again, it seems like to me their lineup kind of bottoms out once you get past 5 or 6 because their stats just aren't great as far as offensively. And that just, that tells me, Glenn, that Southern Miss's strength right now is their pitching staff, and you're going against one of the worst offensive teams in the Sun Belt. Now, granted, they are at their home field, but that to me is, in my head as a journalist, advantage Southern Miss. If you're just looking at it,
just top of that lineup, control that, make them earn it. Don't give them anything cheap or easy, because if you do, then you're creating problems for yourself.
Right, and we've seen an uptick in walks a little bit from Southern Miss's pitching staff over the past couple of weeks, but you hope that like you said, veteran lineup, veteran pitching staff, you hope that would be not the case down in Lafayette this weekend. Southern Miss's offense, of course, when you're going against these guys, you want to try to extend at bats. You want to get out of those 0-2 counts. I feel like they're just in 0-2 counts so many times, and you want to get out of that and just play your game. And I really think if you just play your game, hit the ball like you did against Old Dominion, you should feel good about getting out of here 2 out of 3 and maybe even getting a sweep.
Yeah, I'd like, especially last night, they were in just way too many defensive counts. I'd like to see them, more hitters count so they can dictate. I want to see them dictate the at bat, rather than the pitcher. And of course, that's Captain Obvious stuff. But they need to hopefully be a little more consistent. I just want to see them be a little, ambush some fastballs early in counts, man.
Yeah, I want to talk about something really quickly, and we talked a lot about losing Monaster, Pratt and Cook in center field. And we talked about, the defense of Southern Miss, but, right now, currently, they're sitting there number 1 in the Sun Belt in defense. And there are times where I'm still in my head, when a hard ball gets out of the infield or something like that, where I'm like, oh, Ozzie might have made that play or Nick might have made that play. But, overall, Glenn, they've been really good defensively.
Yeah, they've acquitted themselves well in the middle of the field. They've been fine. Yeah, they're not as athletic or have the range that those other three guys were. But you start thinking about it. Cook was elite defender, and Ozzie was as steady as it gets. And laterally he had a lot more range than you'd think. Not a huge arm, but he got to the ball quick and got the ball off fast. He's a really good shortstop. Nick just got better and better. He got where he just had incredible range. And Nick was a better athlete than probably people gave him credit for. He's a really good athlete. But like you said, I have no complaints. That was an exceptional group, the last couple of years out there covering that triangle.
Yeah, and Morrison, we talked to Travis Creel on the Super Talk Eagle Hour today, and he said it. He said, "Listen, we were honestly surprised a little bit how good Morrison has been at second for a guy who's never played there, right?
Great.
Yeah, he's been good there. And Seth has made some great plays at shortstop, and then Urban's been fine in center. Higdon's been fine in right. I mean, you lost a 5-year starter in right field in Pato, so overall, I think it's been better than I even expected them to be. So I think that's great.
Not as flashy as maybe last year, but extremely steady, and that's really all you ask for, man. Every year, your athletic quotient is going to go up and down as it cycles as you go. These guys are taking care of business. I have no qualms.
No doubt. All right, we're going to get into some questions before we get into our weekend picks, and we're going to knock out all the baseball questions, and then after that, we'll get into your football questions. So far in the chat, we have from Sam Landrum. He said Meeks and English are going to be big out of the pen down the stretch. And my answer to that would be, I certainly hope so. I mean, that would be great. I mean, Meeks, of course, didn't look terrific last night. I think he had a little bit of bad luck in some areas, but McCarty English out of the pen is very, so far been, I think, all right. But I mean, honestly, I really wouldn't mind putting English back in the starting role. I mean, I didn't think he was terrible. And I mean, Glyn, do you think he's as good, if not better, than Crabtree in that Sunday spot?
Yeah, I mean, that's that one spot where Oz is still trying to find that guy. I mean, it may just be a point throughout the season where you kind of have a little bit of that whole staff approach on a Sunday, which I kind of don't mind. It was really successful for us early on, and really, unless guys have disastrous innings, it really puts a team the opposing offense off, man. They can't settle on a guy, figure a guy out. It's a different arm slot, different stuff every inning. I kind of like that. If they don't find that legit Sunday starter, I'm cool with that. And to the guy's question, it's kind of hard to be down on Meeks because he's coming off a year after Tommy John, and coming into last night, I think he'd thrown a total of 26 pitches, and people are like, "Well, he ain't it." I mean, give me a break. The guy's hadn't even thrown 30 pitches. He's trying to figure out who he is again. I mean,
and he got 2 strikeouts.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't command his fastball. He commanded his slider fine, but I'm just not going to give up on a 6'4" guy who can throw 97 miles an hour. So
I'm not either, and I know Oz isn't. And it was funny, we talk about Sunday a lot, but they've only lost one Sunday game this whole season. I mean, it's not like it's cost them from whoever's out there starting. The only Sunday game they lost was obviously that rubber match at Arkansas State, and arguably that wasn't even McCarty's fault because you remember they had a couple errors.
That was a rough inning, those areas. Yeah, I mean, Sunday in the Sun Belt, I mean, you can afford to have a little more of a whole staff approach or run more guys out there. There are no dominant Sunday pitchers in the Sun Belt. So just,
right. The only concern is when you get into regional play, right? When you get into that Sunday game and regional final Sunday night game, if you get there, who's your third starter going to be? But like you, I kind of like this, well, you know what? My third starter might be, Thomas Crabtree, but guess who I get to come in behind him? J.W. Armistead, Bruce Littleton, Drake Meeks, Camden Clark in the 9th, Colby Allen in the 8th. I mean, that's a pretty good arsenal that not a lot of regional teams are going to have on Sundays.
Yeah, and back to talking about that pin is still developmental. That Sunday spot's still developmental. I mean, can't sugarcoat it. If we're going to want to make a run and, like you said, tournament ball, one or two guys are going to have to step up. Somebody's going to have to be a hero. Somebody that maybe we didn't think was going to be. Somebody's going to have to do that. And it seems like every year for Southern Miss, somebody does that with a bat, somebody does that with an arm. And I'm just kind of sitting back, rubbing my hands, waiting to see it happen.
But we've seen it. We've seen it before. Like you said, you had Justin Storm a couple seasons ago. He really did it 2 years in a row. You had last year. I mean, Camden Sundstrom last year. I mean, he didn't come in a lot, and he was nails against Miami. And then now everybody, was excited about him.
emerged as that stud out of the bullpen last year, All-American. So, there's still plenty of time left, and there are lots of young options out there. Oz has just got to, press the right buttons and pull the right levers. I mean, that was going to be something he's going to have to deal with coming into this season. He had 12 guys. He's going to have to figure out how to work them out. And he's still working through that,
Yeah. A fun exercise would be if we had to say today who that guy would be. Who would it be? I'm going to go Bruce Littleton. I think Littleton could come out and give you 4 innings or something like that. Crazy. I think that would be my guy. My guy who I'd pick so far earlier this season. We've seen it, that it's a possibility, right? So who would your guy be?
I mean, I was on the train with Mr. Littleton. He's really impressive. He's got such a big, easy wind up and an easy 93, 94, and that he can come. When he can command that slider. I mean, with that fastball, he's tough to deal with, and he's a guy that's just still figuring it out. He has a chance to be a great one, but he also has a chance like Sundstrom last year. If you remember, Sundstrom was not lights out until we got to tournament time, and he just emerged, and propelled himself into this season with a couple of great outings at the very end. So things happen late for you, in baseball. There will be guys, mark my words, there will be guys on this team who, come to the forefront and, and make a name for themselves before the season's over.
No doubt. All right. Next question was also from Sam Lynch. Well, it's not really a question. It's just a statement, but I don't necessarily agree with it. So I want to get your thoughts on it. He says, you quote unquote, you in all caps have to play Stelly this weekend. And I'm sure he's meaning that for the Louisiana arc, obviously, which he came from there. I mean, he's by far been the most confusing part of this team. A guy came in who, they were up in pins and needles about him committing here, and then it just hasn't worked out. And we also had a question from Palmer Eagle on your site that said, why do you think Stelly has been such a bust? He was a good year. He was a good hitter last year. What happened? And the answer to that is kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Our coaches don't know.
Right.
And the most frustrated person in the room is Caleb Stelly. He doesn't know. I feel so bad for him. This kid's hit since he was in Dixie Youth. It's just, sometimes you go through trials in life, man, and this is his storm right now to try to work himself out of. I have not given up on him, unless there's an injury that I don't know about, and I don't think they'd still be sending him out there if that was an issue. You got to look at Ben Higdon, how he struggles. I had given up on Ben Higdon. I said, he's no way he's going to work himself out of this.
Sure.
Ben actually looked considerably worse at the plate than Stelly's at bats at this point in the season last year, and he found himself. Caleb's a senior and he's a veteran, man. I still think he's got a shot to find himself.
Travis Creel said something really interesting on the Eagle Hour today, that when I asked him on the Eagle Hour, he said, listen, me and Caleb had a very long discussion in the airport waiting to come back from Norfolk. Because if you didn't know, those who didn't know, they didn't get home till like 4 a.m. on Easter Sunday. But and he just flat out told Travis, he said, listen, this is my last year and I'm not having fun. Like, this isn't fun for me. No. And you don't blame him for feeling that way. I mean, it's just been, you lose your starting job. You can't contact the ball. And for those guys, for the people who don't follow it as closely as we do, this is a guy who they thought could be like 15 home run dude. Like that. Yeah. That's literally what they thought this guy could be at his best. And it just hasn't happened. But it was interesting. Creel said that, last week they really just, they changed a lot on his swing metrics. He talked about his feet. He said he thinks he's been barreling up some real big balls in BA. Last night, I was really, really hoping he would get a hit last night. He came up there, and that would have just been awesome. But
Yeah, every time he comes up, I'm just quietly praying for him. I'm pulling for him so hard. I mean, I hate to see good people struggle in life, but that's kind of makes us who we are in this life. So this is just going to be something that makes Caleb better, man. I still believe he's going to get it going.
yes, and don't mind my dog barking and scratching on my door in the background for all who are listening. But that is happening. You have dogs. Everybody has dogs. They're lovely
Yes.
things in life, but when you're trying to do a live show, they're not very lovely. But I love my dogs. So,
This could be one of those Caleb, could be one of those feel good stories before this season's over, dude. I'd love to be able to write about it. I'm pulling for him.
well, me too.
Kind of like Iggy was last year, man.
Sure.
He was
that's
so
a
lost.
great comparison.
I think they just kind of shortened him up and simplified his approach, and he just, after he started making some contact, man, he was gone, man. Lights out.
I read off the numbers earlier this show. I mean, Higdon last year at this point in the season, 196 batting average, no home runs. He only had one double, and a 288 OPS. I mean, I'm going to look up Stelly's numbers and see how close they are to that. I mean, I think they would be very close to that.
Higdon over the last 4 weeks of the season hit well over 300.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was a huge bat for them. He got some homers for them in the postseason. All right, Stelly right now 186. 496 OPS, 3 RBIs, no home runs. So very similar numbers to what Higdon was at this point last season. So like you said, hopefully that could come into, because I don't think people understand how big it would be for Stelly to get going. I mean, to be
it'd be a game changer, man.
I mean, even if it wasn't like every time he stepped to the plate, you think he's going to hit a homer. But if it was just like he's able to put a single out or a double in the, that would be, like you said, a game changer for this.
It would totally solidify that lineup and that DH spot that's just been a tough spot all year. So
right.
I'm still pulling for the dude,
and I haven't given up on him, like you said. I think
pulling for him, man.
And last night, I mean, he there was nobody I wanted more to get a hit right there than him. I mean, just because, and it's not like I'm a journalist, so I don't have a say in the game. At least I try not to have a say in the game, right? Like I try to cover it unbiasedly. But I root for the good story, and him getting a hit right there would have been a great story. And so that's what I mean.
You want to see good people have good experiences, and he's a good dude, no doubt.
Correct. All right, let's move on. That was a 6 minutes on Caleb Stelly, but I love it. Somebody asked what the pitching rotation is going to be. I'm assuming Harrison English or Harrison Sundstrom, and I guess Sunday is just going to be Crabtree. It feels like that's kind of the train they're rolling on right now.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him roll somebody else out there. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, TBA is TBA.
Who would be your other guy?
You might give English another whack at it.
Yeah, I mean, I would be fine with that. I mean, like I said, they've only lost one Sunday game all season, so it's not like it's hurting you. So, and I don't know if whether or not I like English better out of the pen or Crabtree out of the pen, because the one thing about Crabtree is he's pretty good for like one way through the order. And I think that's the way they've kind of been using him. But once he gets that second way through the order, it's kind of like, all right, it's time to pull him. And then McCarty, it was kind of like he just had so many, his pitch count got so high, so then you can't get him as a starter. So I kind of liked him out of the pen better because his pitch count won't get really that high, but he might still get you those 2 innings. So,
and a guy that it just keeps coming to my mind, and obviously I'm not a coach, I have no dog in the hunt, but something in my gut tells me Sam Mitchell could give them a boost. I'm telling you, he was just too good. I mean, he commanded 3 pitches all through the fall and was one of the better performers, unless he's injured or something. I mean, I think I got to give that guy a look.
To us because like tomorrow we normally get them, but they're leaving earlier than anticipated. Yeah. But Sam Mitchell, and like you said, this is a guy who I drove the bus for. Like that's how
he was so impressive, man.
Right, excited we were to see him. This guy's only had 4 outings this season.
Mm-hmm. I just got to find a spot midweek or something to just get him some work and see if he could be that one of those guys. In terms of pitchability, that fall he was probably more impressive than Harris or Sonny at that juncture in his career. I was like, this kid's going to take off. He's already commanding the 3 pitches. And
we were joking about him being the midweek starter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping he gets a shot. Like I don't know if he's got having injury problems or something. I don't know. He's not been a guy we're asking a lot about, obviously, but he just keeps coming to mind as you're trying to find kind of a boost from the middle on. I just think he's got too much available to give up on him at this, not to get him some work. So
right, but I mean he gave up 2 earned runs in Starkville to Mississippi State, and that's it. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of confusing why we haven't seen him that much.
He may be dealing with a sore elbow, a sore shoulder. You just don't know.
I mean, that would be what explains it.
But, I have to ask Coach about that next time I see him.
Yeah, I think so. And like I said, I wish we were able to talk to him tomorrow, but we weren't able to get that availability tomorrow. But that's okay. They give him to us enough, so I never complain. So,
great availability always.
Sure. All right. Next question from Palmer Eagle. What do you think leads to USM's lack of ability to punish high ERA pitchers? Why do some mediocre pitchers seem to have their best outing of the season against USM? And then another question from Cash Ollie, something like that. Basically the same exact question. Why? And he says it in all caps. Why can't we hit 11 plus ERA pitchers?
For me through this funk, unlike earlier in the season, they have not controlled or handled the fastball early in counts. When you can do that, you don't get into these pitcher deep counts where you have to you lose all your aggressiveness, because then you have to go. You're having to make defensive swings. I mean, it just totally changes the outlook of an at bat. I mean, these guys are big power fastball hitters. I want to see them hunt fastballs in their zone early in counts a little more. I'd rather see them, be willing to just go down aggressive than to have to be tentative or passive at the plate. Mm-hmm. These guys are bangers, man. Let them go be bangers.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And last night, I mean, how many 0-2 counts do we see them in? I mean,
yeah, once you're in an 0-2 count, that pitcher's dictating.
You're defensive at that point. You're not necessarily swinging at the high fastballs for homers or whatever, right? So, and I actually asked Creel about this. I keep going back to the Super Talk Eagle Hours. So, by the way, if you want to, you can go listen to it. They're friends of ours because I'm on the show. So, friend of this show, we can shout it out. But I mean, I asked Creel this, and I said, listen, I mean, this guy was 11 plus ERA coming into last night, and you basically let him, control the tempo of the game. And he kind of was like, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, it's surprising to me, and he said, listen, our righty versus lefty splits as far as like how good they hit lefties and how good they hit righties. He said it was a little surprising to him. And he said he knew they had some players who struggled against lefties, but I mean, it's not just the lefty batters such as the Russos, the Morrisons, the Smiths, or whatever. It's also the righties. Like they're not being able to hit these guys either. And I think that to me is almost the more shocking part of it, that your Urbans and your Gillespies and your Dre Barretts, I mean, he went 3 for 3 last night, but you know what I'm saying, that those guys on the right side of it, right, are having trouble hitting lefty pitchers.
Yeah, I mean,
but not just lefty pitchers, also high ERA pitchers too. But sometimes it's just baseball. But I'm with the fans. I mean, I get it. I get their frustration when you see that on the big board it says 11.57 ERA and he looks like Nick Sandlin out there. I mean, it's confusing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of letting him get comfortable. They didn't handle the fastball early in counts. Let him get comfortable, and once he got comfortable and got in the zone, he just dealt with those two good pitches, and it was enough to keep us off of the plate and defensive. Some of these hitters, like last year, some of these guys got to the plate. Pitchers were intimidated. They controlled at bats, and the pitchers were intimidated. They control things. Those guys can still do that. Like I said a minute ago, my mantra is going to be, I'd rather be, get beat being aggressive early in counts than be passive. These guys aren't those kind of hitters. Go hunt fastballs, man.
And as much as I hate one thing, Glyn and I will sit next to each other in the press box, and they swing at the first pitch, and I'm like, oh, there's another one pitch out or whatever. But it's almost like I kind of, like you're saying, is almost at this point, I'd rather him do that. Swing it, because you're going to get something down the middle normally on that first pitch. It's either going to be a ball or a strike down the middle, because it's normally going to be a fastball.
A pitcher wants to always get that first strike too.
Right.
So right. That might be the best pitch you see of an at bat.
Right.
unless they got a book on you as a hitter, of some sort.
Right.
And which they do.
No, they do. The stats, the analytics in college baseball now is insane. Like,
dude, they know your blood type. They know.
Like last night, and I don't want to get blood type. I don't want to get off track. But last night, the New Orleans had the outfield shifted to the right when Urban was up, and Urban hit right into it. It was just kind of like, wow, that's crazy. I don't know.
I can't remember who hit the ball. I can't. It was just it's a laser up the middle, and they had that shortstop shaded behind the bag at second. Right, he's just standing there. I mean, these spray charts don't lie.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, I think those spray charts have robbed Higdon of hitting like 390 right now because he's hit so many balls so hard, just straight at people.
Yeah. And I hate the shift. I'll go on record. I hate the shift.
Yeah, I do too. All right. 2 more baseball questions and then a couple football questions, and then we'll get out of here. Next one says, Creel had Gillespie since he's been here. Last year, horrible. This year, above average. Do you think hitting could be an up and down proposition in some cases? Is every hitter supposed to be made consistent purely through the efforts of the hitting coaches? That's a loaded question.
Yeah, I mean, to me, a hitting coach can only do so much. He scouts the arms you're going to see. He gives you an approach for each game, an approach for each pitcher. It all comes down to execution in the box. Travis Creel ain't standing in the box anymore. He's giving them a plan. If you can't execute the plan, I mean, that's, once he's given you the plan, he's done his job. As a hitter, they know this. They got to go execute it.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I think that's right. And I think it is an up and down proposition in some cases, like this guy's saying. I mean, it sometimes
is. Oh yeah, baseball's a tough game, man. Hitting a baseball.
Like for right now, Higdon, he's batting 270 right now, but you could really argue, like we were just saying, that guy should be batting over 300 with so many balls he's hit right at people. Last night I think the Southern Miss had like 700 mile an hour balls. They were outs, and our good buddy Connor, who runs TrackMan up there. He came out and he was like, dude, I don't think I've ever seen this many 100+ mile an hour balls off the bat, and all of them are outs. Every one of them.
Well, it makes you feel good too, though, because I think coming from that ODU series into last night, making that kind of solid contact, they're getting their timing back. They're executing. As a hitter, it's frustrating, but also if I'm a hitter and I'm making that contact, I feel like there was a part of me that won that at bat. Correct. I know eventually the law of averages is gonna play into my favor at some point. They're gonna drop.
Yeah, and that leads us right into the next question. It says, in your guys' opinion, does the momentum from winning the series at Old Dominion and winning via walk-off last night carry over to this weekend? And my answer to that would be, I certainly hope so. You would hope that would be the case. And I want to go back to the stats just because I just think this is interesting. Excuse me. The 2026 midweek. See what you think about this, Glenn. This is from your stats guy. I love it. We should get this guy on the show. We got to figure out a way to get this guy on the show.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start comping his membership.
That's right.
He gives too much.
Or just let him be a free guy on there. 2026 midweek so far this season for Southern Miss. They're 5-3. Right? They've lost to State, Nichols, and Southeastern Louisiana. That's their 3 losses. Their runs scored per game is 3.6. in the midweeks. 3.6, just 3.6 runs per game. Their runs allowed per game, 3.5. If you look at their weekend numbers, they're 19-6 on the weekend. Their runs scored per game are 6.9, and runs allowed per game are 4.3. What does that say? That's almost doubled runs per game over the weekend than on the midweek.
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind is you're probably seeing pitchers that you don't have as much of a book on.
Sure.
So that could play into it. I think also too, sometimes teams just being human being, you play up to your competition sometimes. You're not always going to be that foot on the throat kind of guy, pound everybody you play, so sometimes that can play into it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's still kind of a conundrum there.
Oh, it's just crazy. You can't even explain that. Like 3.6 runs per game in the midweeks against arguably worse pitching than you're seeing on the weekend, but you're almost 7 runs a game on the weekend. It's just, I think sometimes with this team right now, I'm kind of just like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Who knows?
Well, I know that the old
It's
saying
all
that's baseball. That's just so true, man. Baseball is in football, you just go out there. If you can get angry, pissed off, and go just exert your
This
force
is a
and
family
pound
show.
somebody.
Did you just
You
say
can't
that
do
people?
it. Yeah, baseball's a thinking man's game, dude.
Yeah, I get it. All right. Well, that's all the baseball talk. We'll do a quick football recap, like very quick, because we're running long on this show, but it is a live show, so why not? Glyn, this weekend prediction: Southern Miss takes the series, sweeps, or loses.
I got 2 or 3, man. They've been consistent with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think 2 or 3. I think it's tall order to go down there and sweep. I mean, they need it. It would be awesome. But that's a pretty tall order against the Cajuns on the road.
That Saturday against that lefty is going to be a real challenge. That's going to be, if they win that game, that could really propel it to, a sweep type situation. That's guys, it's going to be a tough matchup for us and anybody else he goes against. He's been really good.
Yeah, he's already shown that, right? So, all right, you were at football practice today. We got to talk to the coordinators on Monday. So far, what is your kind of just thoughts after that scrimmage that we saw, that we did the show on Thursday, and after talking to the coordinators, what do you feel right now?
Yeah, it's just such a unique situation where, Blake got in here, got his guys in here, and he really had about 14 to 17 days to go find 75 new football players.
Right.
You're obviously not going to hit on all those guys. It's just, mathematically impossible. Ideally you want to be pulling 40 to 50 guys. I mean, that's such a huge number. And to get to the point, you have so many new guys, and he's trying to, develop his culture, and he's doing that day by day out there. It's not even so much the X's and the O's. He's just trying to instill his culture, let them know what he expects of them, and then figure out who can do what. You have 80 something new guys. Your whole 2 deep on both sides of the ball is gone. You're not trying to find starters. You're trying to find starters and their backups. This is a monumental task. So I expect there will be deficiencies in this team, next season, because you just can't hit on that many guys. It's impossible.
They're almost.
I do. Yeah, Blake said he wanted to, when we talked to him after the bowl game, I said, after the season, what's disappointed you most? What do you want to fix? He says we couldn't run the football, and you can't run the football. It really limits your playbook. So he wanted to find some offensive linemen, and he wanted to get a little bigger. He wanted to get a little more athletic on the edges. I think he has a chance, that he's done that. Last week, those big guys up there, a couple of 330s, 340s up in there, they leaned on that D line for a while and pounded it inside 2 yards at a time, 3 yards at a time. Once it got to a fourth quarter kind of scenario, that's when you started seeing those big inside zone runs get ripped off up the middle. If that can be that kind of team and have that sort of control, next season, then they got a shot. That run game, then you get into your play action and the rest of your playbook. So I'm encouraged by that. Where I'm worried, maybe a place where you might see the biggest deficiency for me is the defensive line. I'm not sure what they're going to have there on the edges or inside. So that's my biggest concern right now. Can they survive, inside?
Well, for me, it's the whole front seven. Looking at, the linebackers to me are also, I think I would rope those into that concern as well. And I'm with you. When we talked to Kyle Cefalo on Monday, it was very obvious that he's kind of following exactly what Blake Anderson is wanting to do, where it's like, listen, we got so many new guys. Like, I'm not sitting here and trying to pour in a 100-play playbook into their mind. I just want to see what they do. Right. And so, but he did say, we want to be a run first team. We want to be able to, run first, and that's going to open up the pass, and it's, open up the screen game or whatever. And I think they're going to want to run those bubble screens and stuff like that as an extension of the run game. But, that was our first time talking to Cefalo since he's been hired. And, I don't know what my perception of him was before we talked to him, but after talking to him, it was very clear that this guy's kind of a cool, relaxed dude who just wants to see this team play some football. It's just and like I said, I don't know what my perception of him going into that before we even were able to talk to him, but it kind of was like, okay, I kind of vibe with this guy, right? I kind of like where this guy is coming from. But I thought it was cool that when he said that, listen, the most important position group out here is obviously quarterback, right? And you got two guys who've already been in the system in that room. And he said a quote, I'm spoiled in that position group because I think it would be different if you had like three, you already have a brand new team, but then if you had like three new quarterbacks who are also brand new. So I think that is a positive and that will help, the
Yeah,
rest of the offense.
and it's he and Blake's offense. They developed, and evolved over the years. All the calls, all the signals, all the verbiage is the same. That's huge for that group. They should be considerably ahead of the defensive group for that reason solely.
Yeah. And then we talked to Joe Bolden. Um, I guess as I'm choking on sweet tea, what were your thoughts on Joe Bolden while I choke?
Just, I mean, if somebody tells me I'm going to get to meet an all conference type linebacker out of the Big Ten, he's that dude. Just big middle linebacker. That kind of guy, tough guy, um, emotional, fiery. So I could see him, being that guy on the sideline over there, jumping around and going crazy. Over there and pumping those guys up. I mean, and he's played against the best of the best in the Big Ten. And he's a captain for Michigan and played under tremendous coaches. So he should have some acumen. Now, experience, standing on the sideline and calling a game and anticipating. I'm curious to see how that plays out. And like I said before, I think he's going to be dealing with some. He's going to have to cover up some weaknesses in that front seven. And that's a recipe for a long season.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed in that scrimmage, and we covered it pretty well on the Saturday, or I keep thinking that scrimmage was on Saturday. It was actually on last Thursday, but we covered it, that defense, they started out good. I mean, it was able to stop the run for the most part. And then when it got into that latter half of the practice, you notice that fatigue starting to set in, right? Where you were just like gapping them for like 15, 20-yard runs. Now,
yeah, and Blake said today when I asked him about that, he said, I said, tell me something that at this point concerns you may be a little disappointed in at this point and this juncture of your spring. And he alluded back to that. I just thought our conditioning, on the defensive side of the ball wasn't quite where it needed to be. I was a little disappointed in that because those big cats up front leaned on him for a while, and then 2-yard runs started turning into 8s, and 8s started turning into 15s and 20s. So they got gassed, and they were dealing with a huge offensive line too. So
right, the offensive line is big, and that is something that, and like you just said a second ago, it is pretty impressive that they were able to go find those guys. Now, are they experienced? Not really, but they are big. It's kind of, I think Blake's kind of thinking of that. He's like I don't really know what I have, but like these guys appear good, and I think that's just kind of the whole team's mindset right now. Big scrimmage on Saturday, right? They get another scrimmage on Saturday, and then spring football kind of winds down. I mean, I think is the spring game the week after that. I think it's
this has been quick.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I do think this team is kind of at a disadvantage right now because they're not going to have the second portal window, right, where they can drop some of these guys.
No, I mean, what are you supposed to do? They're going to have to go find probably 10 or 11 guys. I mean, I've talked to some of them about it, and they may lean a little more heavily on some JUCO guys who are late qualifiers that they've been in on over the year. That could be a big part of the recipe. But and then with no portal, these guys are just going to start leaving school and enrolling in other schools. It's going to be a mess, man.
Yeah, and it's going to be very, very interesting to watch because, normally I think I've never been in real favor of the spring portal because I think it was like really unfair that like let's just say like the colleges such as the Michigans and the Alabamas and the Ohio States could just drop players they don't need and go buy new ones, and then that would leave like teams like Southern Miss. I have a really good player, and then somebody comes and buys them for you, and then you're left scrambling, right?
Yeah, these G5 coaches almost hated to have spring games because they
correct.
That's
what I'm saying. Almost like this year is like the one year they needed that portal, right? Where you're like, I can tell some guys, listen, we're just not going to use you. Go play somewhere where you can get some playing time, and then say, listen, I need that guy, and he'll fill this gap, and I need this guy and fill this gap. But they don't have that this season, so
well, they'll make do. Reed Stringer is a smart guy. He'll figure it out. But it's going to be a lot harder than previous. I'm sure they already have a plan they have in place. But I think they're going to need to go find some length on the edges defensively and a little more athleticism in the interior. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, Glyn does a great job covering spring football at his site, goldeneaglepride.com, 247 Sports. You can also follow all of our spring football coverage at thepinebellnews.com, Hub City Spokes/sports. And we'll continue to touch on it and have, discussion about spring football throughout the spring. And then as baseball winds down, we'll be talking, the football discussion will ramp up.
Big time. Yeah, we even will cover the off-season conditioning and get with Matt Shadid, the new strength and conditioning coach, and cover that stuff through OTAs and strength and conditioning over the summer. So
yeah, that would be great.
We're always got something going.
Yeah, always have something going, for sure. All right, well, very, very good show tonight, guys. We really do appreciate everybody tuning in and hanging out with us. We appreciate everybody who comes in on the live shows and comments and sends questions and puts questions out on the board and stuff like that. We love it. And anybody who stops us and says, "Hey, enjoy the show," that's just awesome stuff.
Yeah, it means a lot.
Yeah, we will have. I don't know if it'll be a live show. Just depends on how what each of us are doing. But we will have a show on Sunday recapping the Louisiana series, Raging Cajun series, and we'll have that out probably about 3 or 4 hours after the last pitch of that game, because we got to record it and then we got to edit it and all that stuff. So it doesn't take 3 minutes. That's just an unbelievable scenario. But yeah. So enjoy the series this weekend. Catch some golf. Masters, start tomorrow.
Which is
the best weekend of the year. Catch some golf. I've been counting down the days. Like I'm ready to have one screen on Southern Miss Louisiana, the other screen on the Masters. So enjoy it and eat some good food, hang out with your family, but watch some Golden Eagle baseball. It should be fun. It should be a really good matchup. I mean, I'm excited to see Southern Miss play a nice caliber opponent on the weekend on the road. And like you said, they're a veteran lineup. So I'm not nervous that it's going to get in their head or like the atmosphere or anything.
Yeah, great atmosphere over there. Those people do it well, do it right.
So very cool. All right, Glyn, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We do appreciate it. And for Glyn Dyar with 247 Sports, I'm Dima Mixon, and that was A View from the Press Box.